Hi everyone, I'm Laura Max Rose, the author and founder of www.thelightfiles.com, and I am honored to be here today with Carmen Martinez and Lora Rosemon. Carmen and Lora are the authors of a heart-wrenching book called Another Day with Her. Another Day with Her is the story of Carmen's best friend and Lora's only sister who lost her life on April 20th, 2011 after committing suicide and suffering for a long time with bipolar disorder. I'm here today to talk to them about the stigmas of mental illness in minority communities, and what we can do to make sure horrible tragedies like this don't happen again in the future. Carmen and Lora, thank you both so much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
As I said, it really is an honor to be sitting down with you. I read this book from start to finish, taking a break only to eat dinner. It was impossible to put down. It was absolutely gut-wrenching to read about both of your experiences losing your best friend and your sister, Latrice. What was that day when you got that phone call that Latrice was gone like for you?
She called me, and at that point we were kind of struggling back and forth. She had kind of had her symptoms back with bipolar disorder, and so she called me right when it happened. And I remember I was at a Best Buy. I was at a Best Buy, and I saw her calling me, and I was like, oh, because we couldn't get in contact with Latrice earlier that morning. I had spoken to her briefly the night before.
You said in your book that you had spoken to her, and she had asked you if you were awake.
Yeah, it was kind of an odd call, because she would always call me, and it would never be a 2-minute conversation. We would always just talk about different stuff. So when she called me that night, it was late, and she was like, "Are you up?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's wrong?" And then I think I was kind of dozing off, and she was just like, "Yeah, I just wanted to know if you could talk." I'm like, "Yeah, what's the matter?" And then she kind of paused, and then she was like, "No, I'm good. We'll talk tomorrow." And I was like, "You sure?" I'm up. And that was it. And she was like, "Good night." And that was the last time I talked to her. So when Lora called me, she had called me earlier that day, and she was, we couldn't get in contact with her. And so when she called and I saw the caller ID, I was like, oh, she's probably at the house. And that's when she kind of told me those news. So
yeah, I was actually at work. I was at work, and I remember I was doing hair, and I remember a phone call, and I was like, okay, finally, my mom's calling. She's like, she's gonna tell me they found her. She was just busy. She was just doing something, because prior to that, she was supposed to come in and get her hair done. So I was waiting on her to say, all right, I'm coming. Earlier that day, she had sounded beautifully. Like, she was like, all right, running errands. I got a couple of things to do. And so she sounded like the Latrice that I knew. She sounded like my sister was back. That's what I was thinking in my brain. I was like, great. So when we couldn't contact her, I was like, okay, this is weird, but sometimes I know that whenever she's working with clients, she doesn't answer her phone, so I just put it to that. So whenever my mom finally called me, actually it was my cousin, and I heard screams on the other end saying, she did it, and I'm like, what? And they're like, she did it, she shot herself.
What was so incredible to me when I was reading this book was how much the two of you did on your own to help Latrice, and how little professional help was available to you, that you sought it out so many times, and so many people just basically told you all to handle it on your own. One doctor even said, just get her the meds.
Yes.
Get them to her.
Yes.
And the fact that you had brought her in the day before to the hospital, she was sent back home, and that was the day that she went to a pawn shop and acquired a gun with no hassle, to your knowledge.
Hassle. Yeah, to our knowledge.
right, I think when she was diagnosed, because she was diagnosed about 10 years ago for the first time. So the very first time we even were told that she had bipolar disorder, we really didn't know what that meant, and there wasn't really kind of a session or a sit down that said, okay, this is what this means, this is what it means for the family, for the friends. So I think the only thing that was really kind of stressed to us was that she needed to take medication, and that was it. So we really followed that to the T, because that's all we were told. So after the fact, I think that's how we started kind of, when the aftermath was writing this book, was that we really found out that there was resources out there, and that is something that is a lifelong commitment, and there was more of a support group that we could have given her. So that's why it was very important for us to write every detail possible that we wanted to share, because I think how it started with the book was that we didn't want no one to experience that, what we went through. And it was really kind of just me and her just going with everything step by step, just, not knowing where to reach out to.
So many people have these horrible things happen to them in their lives, and they say, I'm going to write a book about it. I'm going to tell everybody my story. And then when it comes down to it, either it's been too long since the incident, or,
Right.
we don't want to get back in touch with that pain. So it's so clear to me how much you both loved her to write this book in her memory. And I want to know, what is it that made you do the biggest thing you could do for bipolar awareness and write this book about your experiences with Latrice?
I think the main thing was I started writing the book. It was more of a journal kind of healing process for me. And I don't remember the conversation that I mentioned it to Lora, but I think going back into the experiences and what we went through, and even the aftermath, dealing with the lawyers and selling her house and just dealing with someone passing, just dealing with that, I think it became the story that we wanted to just share. We didn't know where it was going to go, but we wanted to make sure step by step that we didn't leave anything out, because that was the main thing, going back into the stigma of having a mental illness. She really promised us not to tell anyone, so it was really a handful of people that even knew what was going on. So when we wrote the book, we went back and forth as far as what to share, what not to share. But then we decided, hey, we need to be unfiltered, because this is the only way that we're really going to get that across, the message across. So it really, did relive each part, writing that book and editing and all, but after the final version, we loved everything that we wrote about it, because it really went back into the awareness of bipolar disorder and what it is to have someone that's suffering for it, and the support that you need to give someone.
Well, because of you two, and because of the book, and because of your foundation, she already is living out that legacy and has made such a difference in the world through both of you. I can't thank you both enough for being my guests today, and for your bravery and your courage in writing this book. Another Day with Her is available in Barnes & Nobles in Houston, in River Oaks, and online as well on Amazon.com. Thank you both again for being here, and livebeautifulnow.org. You can visit if you'd like to know more. Thank you all. I'm Laura Max Rose, and I'll see you next time.